And welcome back. Our next guest is a storyteller, a parent, wife, and tech growth entrepreneur, and an author who will join us to speak about how they are fostering a community of lifelong learners. That's going to be through their book series, Unschool Discoveries. And venturing into the unknown, please welcome to our show, Danii Oliver. Danii, how are you? How you feeling? How you doing?
Hi, Dr. Lee. I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me on today.
Yeah, Danii, we mentioned before when you first came on to do a test. I said I know about your microphones and all that. So you said your dad used to be a DJ. What did he play?
Yeah.
What genre of music did he play?
Oh, my father played all genres of music from Caribbean to pop culture. One of the places that he worked throughout my childhood was La Détente,
All right.
off of LaGuardia Airport
Yeah.
in Queens.
Oh, look at that. He's a DJ because you mentioned those different genres. When I say just one, oh, he only played R&B? No, he played everything.
Yeah,
Got
he
to have
played
the whole
everything.
music library, the whole repertoire. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got it started in it.
You gave a great introduction. I am an author, storyteller, and my focus in my
Hmm.
storytelling is unschooling. And my first book, Unschool Discoveries Venturing into the Unknown, is how I'm presenting my stories to the world.
Yeah. Now, just a quick synopsis of the book, venturing and then unknown. Um, what can we learn about that?
So, Unschool Discoveries Venturing into the Unknown is about an unschooling family that picks up from their life in New York, everything that they've ever known there in New York, and travels across the country to a whole different
But
lifestyle.
when you say
So they're
unschooling,
literally
yeah, when you say unschooling, what did you mean by that?
Oh, so unschooling is a term that refers to children in a family who don't go to
Oh,
school.
got it. Okay,
It's a section of homeschooling where we don't try to bring school at home either.
got
We
it.
do things in a completely different way, and it's a child-led way.
Okay, and I'm sorry for breaking
Yeah.
in there, but I just
No,
wanted
it's
to touch
okay.
that real. So,
It's okay.
so you said, you know what? Let me put something together to give people a better understanding of what we're talking about here. So, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The rest of the synopsis of the book is what?
Oh, yeah. So the family leaves their lifestyle behind to find a completely new lifestyle, literally venturing into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about their lifestyle changing, it's about their way of education, the way of learning, the way of raising a family changes. So everything changes for them. And they learn that life can be done differently without school, without boundaries, without timetables. And so they basically learn through observation, a very ancestral way of learning. They learn through doing things that they have interests in, hands on. They learn about the land, about growing their own food, about how pest management works. All these things in the book are basically like how they venture into this whole unknown lifestyle to begin to learn on their own and
Yeah.
focusing on their interests.
How do you get them involved in the community though to be a part of the social life also?
That that's a great question that everybody asks. And first and foremost, as unschoolers, we live in the world. We don't stay home all the time. The kids have conversations with people at the grocery store. They have conversations with people at the playground. This is
Yeah.
both children and adults. There's so many activities that we do where they're always engaged with people. Just this past weekend, the kids went and got fossil preparer certified at the Dinosaur Research Center
Wow.
over here in Keene. And so this summer or next summer, they're fully ready to go on a dinosaur dig in Wyoming. And then, like, my daughter's going to go to space camp. So, in
Wow.
terms of community, we live in the world and
Yeah.
people are everywhere.
Yeah. So, but the difference is that it's mostly homeschooling.
So, it's not exactly homeschooling. Homeschooling is when you try to bring school home and mimic everything that's done in school. Unschooling is where we let go of those ideas and we allow the kids to lead their education. So basically, they start off the day not with what I tell them to do, but with what they want to do. So for my daughter, that looks like crash course science, crash course neurology or psychology. For my son, that is dinosaur video games where he's learning
Wow.
to count, he's learning to read, he's learning to do different things,
Hmm.
and especially building his logic skills through the games that he interacts with that first and foremost interest him.
Yeah, but you're there for the discipline. You say, hey, you know right from wrong. You can do what you want to do, but hey, these are the guidelines. We have some guardrails for you.
We don't have very many, at least not as many as when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But I am here to offer guidance,
Yes.
to facilitate. So if my son has a question, I go with him down that journey to get his questions answered. So in school, I used to ask lots of questions and I used to get in trouble all the time up to high school for asking too many
Yeah.
questions. With my kids, I work to answer every single question they have.
And
It
they
is a
grew
lot
up
of
to
work
become
sometimes.
productive members of society using
Absolutely.
the the un,
Absolutely. We have lots of unschooled adults in the world. And it's
yeah,
interesting. A lot of people don't speak about it because of the taboos surrounding house homeschool. But once you get to talking about what you do, or people see your kids out in the street in the middle of the day or in a museum all by
yeah,
themselves, people start asking questions and they reveal their stories about their education, about how they were
yeah,
unschooled and how it was the best thing for them because it allowed their parents to focus on their needs
yeah.
first as opposed to putting them on the back burner, kind of the way kids in school are
Danny, what are some of
treated.
the taboos that people come up with?
One of them is the social aspect. They feel like because kids aren't in school that they aren't being socialized, when it's exactly the opposite. Kids in
And
school
that's what they
aren't
thought
really
that,
getting the social.
yeah, that's what they thought during COVID also. We keep the kids
Yeah.
out of school, they're going to miss out a whole lot because the natural growth of a child should have that social piece
Right. But in
intertwined
school
with
you're
the
not allowed to
education.
be social, right? In school they want you to sit down, be quiet, and do as you're told. You get maybe 30 minutes to run wild and free, and even that has a lot of boundaries. Where with unschoolers, they're running wild and free all day long. They're
Yeah,
talking all day long. They're interacting all day long. There isn't a time and place for them to be a kid. They're always being kids,
yeah.
openly and freely.
Now, when you talk about environments that encourage lifelong learning for students, what are we talking about?
We're talking about focusing on a person's interests. One of the things that school doesn't do is allow kids to dive into their interests or answer their questions like, what do I need math for? That was
Yeah.
a big question when I was in school. What do I need math for?
Hmm.
They never taught us finance, taxes, any of those things. And my kids know exactly what money is for. When we go to the store, they're learning to budget.
Uh-huh.
They're understanding what they need to save to buy the things that they want or the foods that they want. They understand the value of mathematics, the value of science, not because I told them they have to, but because the things that they're interested requires them to go on these deep scientific dives to understand what they need to do to get from point A to point
Mm.
B here life on earth, right? Like they know if I want to get something, I've got to sit down, I've got to count my money, I've got to work out my finances, I've got to start ideas to get money. There's things that they have to work out on their own. The answers are not being given to them in terms of this is how you live life, but how do I want to live life? And they have to figure that out.
Yeah. So, how early do you start with them to have their mind develop in that area?
Honestly, for me, it started in utero. I was talking to my kids when they were in the womb. We played music for them.
Hmm.
We had conversations with them. With my first child, they reacted to certain songs that we would sing to them. And then with my second one, they just were very curious about the world in which they were coming into. It
Yeah.
might sound weird to some people, but as an Arawak, like really focus on like our ancestral knowledge and we really pay attention to things like that, especially as Caribbean people. And so I was very connected to
Ah.
my kids, and when they came out, we just continued whatever we were talking about in utero, we continue to talk about. And I have a method that I call the 5 E's, and I pretty much follow that, which is make sure my child knows everything in their environment. Once they know
Yeah.
everything in their environment, I then expose them to what's not there. So for instance, birds, dogs are in their environment, but not elephants, rhinos, and giraffes. So
Yeah.
we go to wildlife safari places, and we check out animals that are not in our usual environment.
Yeah.
After I expose them, they then are tasked to engage, where
Ah.
I let go and they engage as much as they want. They play with it, they come up with new ideas, they try to twist things, and then they experiment. once they get into the experiment phase, I know that they're really, really grasping something, they're really interested in something. I can offer them more tools and resources that it eventually allows them to have their own endeavors.
Yeah,
An endeavor can look like a project or what I hope, a
yeah.
business, so that I'm basically raising entrepreneurs.
There you go. And you mentioned Awak Indians and the Caribbean. Touch
Yes.
that a little bit more. And is there a religion that you bring the kids into in raising them?
So we don't bring the kids into any religions. I do focus on our Arawak and Taino heritage, which is more of spiritual based practices,
Yeah,
listening to the land, listening to our bodies. We have our own farm, our own gardens. And so a lot of our medicines come right out of the ground. My son
yeah,
right now is completely fascinated in how we grow the different herbs and the different things that they can do for your body, and I attribute a lot of that to my Arawak ancestry. As a matter of fact, I started a brewery in New York
wow,
about 6, 7 years ago, Island to Island Brewery. And when I was making the concoctions and brewing the beers and making the juices that actually helped people with different ailments, my mother actually went on record saying that she thought I was possessed by our ancestors because she never taught me how to do those things.
yeah, yeah,
But it was things that her grandmother was doing. She never passed
yeah.
it to me, but yet I'm doing it. And
So,
so,
so when you
go
say
ahead.
Arawak Indian and Taino Indian, that's mostly of the Caribbean, right? And Taino is
Yes.
mostly like Dominican and Puerto Rican and all of that. Um,
So it's a mix. The northern part of the Caribbean is where we really call ourselves Tahinos, and then the southern part is where we call more Arawak or
yeah,
Carib.
yeah. So your podcast, let's talk about that because they're only gonna give me like about a minute, minute and a half. Talk about the
Yes.
podcast that you're doing, Unschool Pages of Our Lives.
Yes, Unschool Pages of Our Lives is actually where I'm getting the stories for Unschool Discoveries
Yeah.
from. It's a podcast where the kids and I come on and we showcase what unschooling can look like. It's conversations, it's research, we read a lot of books. Basically, we explore the questions that we have based on
Mm-hmm.
a topic, and we just take deep dives for anywhere from a half hour to an hour, asking questions and finding the answers. And it's fun. It's loud. It's crazy. It's not like
Right.
any other podcast where it's very controlled. The kids are very much leading the conversation, and they do it because they want other kids to know that you can learn about the things you want to learn about, and here are the different ways that you can explore that learning.
Beautiful, beautiful. Say hello to Dad for lending you his microphones and all that stuff. I know you got your own too. You got the podcast going. Danii Oliver, author, Unschool Discoveries. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a quick break. I've got more, a whole lot more open coming up next.